Well, it's election day in New York. Will New York get the Islamist socialist who's going to ruin America? Or will New York get Cuomo, the establishment shill for Israel who already ruined America? It is election day. Zoran Mamdani went and he cast his vote with his wife. He said, on this beautiful morning, in Astoria, I cast my ballot for our city and our future. I hope you will all too. People are absolutely losing their mind about Zoran Mamdani potentially becoming the next New York City mayor. But it is looking more and more like he is going to end up being the mayor of New York. I mean, there's still a chance for Cuomo, right? We don't know until the polls close, until every vote's counted. I'm hoping it's not going to be one of those elections where we have to wait several days for the mail-in ballots or whatever it is. You know, I'm hoping that we actually get the results tonight. Or tomorrow morning we wake up to the results. And I got to be honest with you guys, I hope Mamdani wins. I hope Mamdani wins for the same reasons I hoped Trump would win. And it's just the Molotov cocktail into the system just to cause people to squirm and scream and get their tights in a bunch. I like seeing that because I don't think there's really anything different. And I think we saw that with Donald Trump now today, actually endorsing, he ended up endorsing freaking, what's his face? Cuomo, of all people. I mean, Republicans should be can you believe this? If you would have told Republicans, make America great again, Republicans, that Donald Trump is telling people to go out there and vote for Andrew Cuomo over the Republican candidate right here on the screen, Curtis Sliwa, I think they would lose their minds. I mean, in what world are we living in where the Republican the supposed Republican anti-establishment, Republican, MAGA, tells people to go out there and actually essentially vote for Cuomo because otherwise you're going to end up with Mamdani. Why not endorse Curtis Sliwa, the Republican? Why not get the Republican elected? But that's because obviously Andrew Cuomo is pretty much just like the Republican. Both parties want you to believe they're working for the people, but let's be honest. Washington is bought and paid for. Big corporations in Wall Street get bailed out while working Americans get left with higher prices, shrinking savings, and endless promises that never materialize. The system is corrupt, and when it breaks, they won't be the ones paying the price. We will. That's why I put my trust in something outside of their control. Physical gold and silver from American Hartford Gold. Precious metals are real, tangible, and they've held their value through every economic collapse in history. You can have them delivered straight to your home or secured in a tax-advantaged gold IRA. American Hartford Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of 5-star reviews. And right now, when you call and mention my name, Kim, you can get up to $15,000 in free silver with your purchase. So call 866-584-3884 or text Kim to 65532. That's 866-584-3884 or text Kim, K-I-M, to 65532. Don't wait for politicians to fix a system they benefit from. Protect yourself today. These are the odds right now on Polymarket, and they're betting, and this is what they've bet. They've bet that 95% of them bet that by a 95% win here, Zoran Mamdani would beat Andrew Cuomo. I believe that's probably true. Let's talk about the endorsements that Andrew Cuomo's getting, because it's really down to these two, and Andrew Cuomo's feeling pretty solid today. He's thinking he's going to win this. He's going to get all of that anti-Mamdani vote. Could you imagine being the candidate that's like, nobody likes me, but you know what? That's okay. They don't like him even more. So they're going to vote for me just because they hate him, and so they'll vote for me. How could you feel good about that? How could you actually think that's making progress? It isn't, and this is how we vote. And it's left us in this situation over and over and over again, where we're in a two-party system. They play on emotion. They get you afraid. They make you believe if you don't vote for this guy, evil and all hell will break loose. And that is how they keep getting people to vote for the same people like a Cuomo over and over and over again. It's totally and completely crazy. But here's Zoran Mamdani saying, congratulations, Andrew Cuomo. I know how hard you worked for this. And it was that Trump has endorsed Cuomo. Also, who else has endorsed Cuomo? Zoran says another big endorsement for Andrew Cuomo, and it only costs $959 million in tax breaks, and that is Elon Musk also endorses Cuomo. What he's talking about there, that what is it, the $959 million in tax breaks. He's talking about the deal that they did with Elon Musk, where basically his corporation would get these $959 billion in tax breaks, and he only had to pay like $1 in rent or something in New York. I mean, something really stupid. And it's interesting that, these are corporate welfare, but people are really pissed off about Zoran Mamdani talking about, 700 million. It was 959 million, not billion, in tax breaks for Elon Musk's company. And people are freaking out about Zoran Mamdani talking about 700 million in tax breaks for the average person. And that's the problem, is that, then you might say, yeah, but Kim, look at all the great things Elon Musk does and all the jobs he creates. But Kim, I get that. I hear you. But why not? You could do both, right? Obviously, you're spending a bunch of money on all kinds of crazy things like war everywhere, giving corporations a bunch of tax breaks, all kinds of breaks. Why not help the little guy too? Now, I understand the argument of, yeah, but, if you give too much, you end up becoming a welfare state, and that is clearly very unproductive. And in a lot of ways it is. In a lot of ways it isn't. I don't think it's the function of the welfare state, what everybody's afraid of with Zoran Mamdani. I don't think it's a function of the welfare state that leads to laziness, that leads to people not being productive and just mooching off the system. You got to look at these Scandinavian countries. And the Scandinavian countries have very vast welfare states. People in these countries do not have to worry about the stressors of who's going to pay for childcare, college education, medical bills. They don't have elder care. They don't have these stressors that the rest of us have. And yet they're highly productive. So it's not that socialism leads to, this kind of squandering society of a bunch of degenerates. That's not really true. When you look at Scandinavia, when you look at Sweden, when you look at Denmark. So there's something in the culture that is causing that. That is a cultural issue, not a you're giving too many handouts issue or you're giving too many safety nets to people. Certainly maybe give safety nets, but maybe put the caveat on the safety nets that you have to be a productive working person in society in order to gain them. I don't know. I'm sure there's a way to kind of change and shift the culture, but I just want to point that out. That, people are freaking out about Zoran Mamdani talking about $700 million in kind of infrastructure or help or whatever it is that he wants to do to help the working class in New York. And yet, Elon Musk, who gets $959 million in corporate welfare, says, yeah, I want the other guy. Well, why wouldn't you? Because Zoran Mamdani's made it clear that he's not going to give you any corporate welfare. He wants to give it to the people instead. Donald Trump came out and said this long thing. He says, if communist candidate Zoran Mamdani wins the election for mayor of New York City, it's highly unlikely that I will be contributing federal funds other than the very minimum as required to my beloved first home because of the fact that, as a communist, this once great city has zero chance of success or even survival. It can only get worse with a communist at the helm, and I don't want to send, as president, good money after bad. He goes on here, and we'll read the rest, but I don't know if he has the power to cut funding off like that. I think he's setting himself up for a lawsuit. And not only that, but Zoran Mamdani is not going to bring communism to America. Maybe some socialist structures, democratic socialist positions, things that, like I said, Sweden and Denmark and those Scandinavian countries, what they're modeled after, nobody would call them communist countries. Donald Trump doesn't even call them communist countries. In fact, he snuggles up to the Finnish prime minister and thinks he's great. So, this isn't. So this is just a tactic to keep the establishment in play. I'm curious to see what Zoran Mamdani does. I would like to see him blow up the system, and let's just try it out. If it doesn't work, okay, fine. Vote in somebody else the next time. What else? What all do we have to lose? You're going to put Cuomo in there instead. You think Cuomo is going to be any better? You think Cuomo's actually... you already saw what Cuomo did. He made things worse. You bitched about it all the time. Look at all the homelessness in New York. New York's falling apart. New York's bad. New York's bad. That was under Cuomo's watch. And Trump was sitting there constantly complaining about the disarray of New York under Cuomo's watch. But you know what? Let's not try something new. Let's not try to, give the welfare or whatever it is to the people. And let's just see how it works. If it doesn't work, then okay, now you know. It's like Argentina and Malay. How do you know what happens with libertarians in charge unless you try it? I was for that guy winning. Let's try it out. Try anything that's different. If what you're doing is failing, don't keep doing that. And yet here everybody is screaming for Cuomo. Trump goes on to say, it is my obligation to run the nation, and it is my strong conviction that New York City will be a complete and total economic and social disaster should Mamdani win. His principles have been tested for over 1,000 years, and never once have they been successful. Have they been? Have they really? Because, again, Scandinavia, extremely successful, very happy people. I don't think you could say that these haven't been tried. There's certainly been attempts to try communism. I'm highly skeptical of communism. I don't think communism works no matter how you try it. I don't think it works. But try it. You know what? Try it. And watch it fail on its own, without sanctions, without fear-mongering, without war-mongering, without bombs, without all. Just try it out and see what happens. And let it fail on its own. I'm a big proponent of that. Or, you know what? What you're really afraid of is you're worried it's going to work. That's what you're actually afraid of. Because if you knew it was going to fail, you just let it go. You'd be like, oh, it's going to fail. They'll learn their lesson. But you're not. You're wanting to stop it at all costs, and that's different. He said, I would much rather see a Democrat who had a record of success win than a communist with no experience and a record of complete and total failure. He was nothing as an assemblyman, ranked at the bottom of the class, and as mayor of potentially again the greatest city in the world, he has no chance to bring it back to its former glory. We must also remember this. A vote for Curtis Sliwa, who looks much better without a beret, is a vote for Mamdani. Whether you personally like Andrew Cuomo or not, you really have no choice. You must vote for him and hope he does a fantastic job. He's capable of it. Mamdani is not. I am so sick of this narrative. Are you guys sick of this too? I am just so sick of this narrative of a vote for so-and-so, a vote for Jill Stein, a vote for Curtis Sliwa, a vote for whoever is a vote for the evil guy. You know, you voted for Jill Stein, you voted for Trump. No, I voted for Jill Stein. I didn't vote for Trump. You voted for Trump. A vote for Curtis Sliwa, somebody that you totally align with, a Republican. You know, and here you are Republicans and you want to vote for Curtis Sliwa. You'd be voting actually for Mamdani. How dare you? Are we not sick of this yet? And I thought Republicans were the ones saying we're not that party. That's Democrats. That's how they behave. Republicans have really just shown that they are no different than the liberals. And I'm going to show you this even more so because Trump definitely made some comments that were very much in line with what the left has been saying for many years about Donald Trump. But here's Donald Trump saying here that, he's not a fan. He's reiterating this, that he's not a fan of Cuomo, but he'd rather have Cuomo than the communists.
But what if Mamdani becomes mayor?
It's going to be hard for me as the president to give a lot of money to New York because if you have a communist running New York, all you're doing is wasting the money you're sending there. So I don't know that he's one, and I'm not a fan of Cuomo one way or the other, but if it's going to be between a bad Democrat and a communist, I'm going to pick the bad Democrat all the time, to be honest with you.
Why not the Republican? Somebody explain this to me. Why not Curtis Sliwa? Why are you not endorsing that guy? Why instead is it the establishment shill Cuomo? Oh, I'll tell you why. Because they're all the same. There is no difference between the left and the right, right? Cuomo's out there shilling for Israel. So is Donald Trump. They're both out there not really for America. They're for their rich donors. They're for the special interests. They're for Israel. They're for everybody but us. And so they're really coming from the same place. Curtis Sliwa doesn't. Even though he's a Republican, he doesn't come from that. So they don't like him. They've ostracized him. They'd rather have each other, the establishment shills in office, than an outsider. And that's why they don't like Mamdani, and that's why they don't like Sliwa. And they smear them both. All we've been seeing over the past several weeks now is Curtis Sliwa. He's what an awful human being for actually staying in the race and giving voters a choice. What an awful person. He should drop out of the race. That way, what? You think that his voters are going to go and vote for Cuomo? They're going to go flooding to Cuomo because Sliwa isn't in the race? Maybe they just wouldn't vote. But no, Curtis Sliwa is scum because he's actually giving voters the opportunity to vote for him. Or, if voters want to vote for Cuomo, they can do that too. Nobody's stopping them. There's no gun to their head. There's nobody saying, hey, you can't vote for Cuomo. You must vote for Sliwa because, I don't know, like we're holding your grandmother hostage. If they want to vote for Cuomo, they can. But these people have gone totally nuts. Here's Ted Cruz. Look at this. He says, that's the image he shows. He says this one, this seems like an easy one, New York. So you got Ted Cruz, another Republican, saying, go after Cuomo, a Democrat, just a Democrat, is what this image says. I mean, look at this image. A Democrat, just a Democrat, or an actual communist jihadist, a literal Karl Marx quoting American hating jihadist, or a Democrat who's shown to hate the American people and love Israel and, okay. This is Representative Andy Ogles, and he says, wake up, New York. And he shows this video, this picture, of 9/11. Like, how dare you vote for a Muslim after what these Muslims did on 9/11? I mean, that's what he's saying here. Hate Muslims. Muslims are collectively, like Zoran Mamdani, he's somehow collectively responsible for 9/11. And how old was he? Was he even, I don't even think the guy's like 38 or something. I mean, he was like a 12-year-old when 9/11 happened or something. But they're saying, oh, it's his fault, so don't vote for him because this is what Muslims do. I mean, this Muslim hating, this is coming directly, this Muslim hating narrative is coming from one group of people. Well, two groups of people. And that is the pro-Israel group, and that is the military-industrial complex who just wants to sell bombs. And they need to use the bombs on somebody in order to sell more of them. That is where this narrative is coming from. And it is racist and bigoted and awful in every way. Tim Young, he says, this is like more of the meltdown he's showing here. Mamdani and other Islamists and socialists, he writes. So he's calling him an Islamist. And then he shares this picture. And it's a wolf there surrounded by sheep. Once elected, I will be a vegetarian, says the wolf. Oh, Randy Fine, this guy is a nightmare. He's probably the worst member of Congress, the most despicable member. Him and, who's that guy who goes, showed up in the IDF uniform? What's his name again? These two are like some of the most despicable people in Congress. But I think Randy Fine might take the cake on this one, how he's just celebrating the death of Palestinian children and, just is a really despicable guy. But he is calling for the deportation of Zoran Mamdani. This is what he says.
I've called for Zoran Mamdani to be deported. The only thing I want to see him running for is his gate at JFK on the deportation flight to Uganda.
Once again, turning into Democrats. Remember when Democrats were doing this? Like, we've got to stop you from being able to lead this country. Voters voted for you. It doesn't matter. We need to stop you. We have to pull every legal trick in the book that we possibly can in order to stop you. We don't care what the voters want. That's what they're sounding like. That's exactly what they've become on this. This is Mark Lucas, a veteran. He's the Veteran Action, the founder of Veteran Action. And again, part of the hysteria of Zoran Mamdani. Oh no, he's coming.
Not involved in a political election. We're involved in a war. And we saw what the left was willing to do against President Trump. They tried to send him to prison for non-crimes. They tried to kick him off the ballot. And then I saw the left try to assassinate President Trump on live TV.
Okay. Remember he said all of this because in the next 45 seconds, listen to him flip.
That's what the left is willing to do to their enemies. They're playing for keeps. And I see too many people in the Republican Party, in the establishment, that they don't see this threat. Well, I saw Mamdani openly campaigning with an unindicted co-conspirator of the first World Trade Center attack. I think that's enough grounds to investigate his application to citizenship, to see if he committed fraud by saying that he was not affiliated with terrorist organizations. And then we should move to denaturalize him and to kick him out of this country.
Ooh.
This is Western civilization that's at stake here. It's not just New York City. It's migrated to my Midwestern towns like Dearborn, Michigan, Minneapolis, Minnesota. We have to hold these people accountable.
There's just too many Jews in these cities. I mean, imagine if somebody said that. But instead what he's saying is there's too many Muslims in these cities. Or too many black people. I mean, it's just really unbelievably racist to be saying this. I mean, it really is. I mean, the left accused a lot of people of being racist all the time. And I didn't see that. I didn't see that I didn't think the things they were saying were racist, but I think these things are, or bigoted in some way, whatever you want to classify it as, bigoted. To say, these Muslims, they're everywhere. They've infiltrated us. They're in Dearborn, Michigan. It's just awful. It's really awful. And what's interesting about what he says is, he starts off with, I saw what the left did to Trump. They went after him legally. They did all these legal things against him. It's war. So what we got to do, he says they're awful. So he's asserting the left is awful for going after Donald Trump in all of these ways. Totally awful. But then he says, we got to do what we can to deport this guy. I mean, if the left if Donald Trump was born anywhere else and they had the opportunity to potentially deport him, don't you think they would have also talked about that? And then you would have condemned it and been like, the left, look at how awful they are. Look at how anti-American they are, that they would want to deport somebody who's clearly an American, just because they were born. That's what they would say. But here they are now, the Republicans saying the same exact thing. It is just two cheeks of the same ass. It really is when it comes to the left and the right. It is so disappointing to see them act and behave identically to the left. Just hysteria. Don't vote for, with this whole Mamdani, it's if you vote for the third candidate, who's not actually the third candidate. The third candidate is Cuomo. Curtis Sliwa is the Republican running. Zoran Mamdani is the Democrat running. Andrew Cuomo is running as an independent. But it's if you vote for this guy, then your vote is actually a vote for somebody else. That is what the left said over and over and over. It was such a turnoff. If you voted for Bernie Sanders, that was really a vote for Donald Trump. If you voted for Jill Stein, that was a vote for Donald Trump. You must be Russian. You must be a Russian plant. And now what do they say? Oh, you're working with Qatar. You're an Islamist terrorist. That's who you are, if you dare. And then, look at the left going after Donald Trump, using every legal maneuver they possibly can to stop him from leading, from stopping the people from having their choice. And now they're trying to do the same thing to Mamdani, talking about deport him. Deport him. Why don't you just let the voters choose who they want, rather than dragging Curtis Sliwa through the mud and saying, how dare you run? How dare you run? Because if you do, you are taking votes away from Cuomo. Like as if, how? People like choices. It's just really disheartening to see, but, not a total surprise to see the right completely morph into the left. And then what? Well, the left then more, this is how, it's just going to be a cycle that we can never break. Because once you think one side is going to break the cycle and actually move forward and kind of bring us to a more enlightened space, they just reel back in any little emotion, just reel them back in. And now they're all the same and they're all just playing in the dirt together. It's just really, really, really totally and completely disheartening entirely. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.